Imagine being locked behind bars, surrounded by killers, conspirators and criminals who made the very notion of danger bend to their will. In the world of outlaw motorcycle clubs, prison isn't a refuge, it's another battlefield. Welcome to the shadows of concrete cells, where some of the most feared Hells Angels roam. Today, we count down the 15 most dangerous Hells Angels in prison, men whose names echo with violence, influence, and infamy. Stay tuned, because some of these names will chill you, and the stories behind them are darker than steel. Before we begin, understand this. The Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, HAMC, is classified by US law enforcement as an outlaw motorcycle gang, a structured criminal enterprise engaged in violent crime, drug trafficking, extortion, and more. When one of their own ends up behind bars, it often doesn't mean their power fades, it sometimes intensifies. In some prisons, angels run underground rackets, exert control, or maintain reputations beyond the bars. #1. Maurice Mom Boucher. Maurice Mom Boucher, a name steeped in dread in Quebec's underworld. As president of the Hells Angels Montreal chapter, Boucher orchestrated violence across the province, bombings, murder, and open war with rival gangs. He was convicted of killing 2 prison guards in 1997 and sentenced to life in prison. Even behind bars, his legend looms large. Many fear his reach never truly ended. He stands as one of the first names that comes to mind when you think most dangerous in biker prison law. Story: in the 1990s, Boucher declared war on Quebec's justice system itself. He orchestrated bombings against judges and courthouses, demanding his incarcerated brothers be freed. 2 prison guards were murdered in 1997 on his orders. He was sentenced to life and remains a symbol of biker ruthlessness in prison. #2. Harry Taco Bowman. Next, Harry Taco Bowman. Once the international president of the Hells Angels in the US, Bowman's influence extended far beyond his local chapter. He was arrested and sentenced to life in prison for racketeering, drug trafficking, and conspiracy. Inside prison walls, a man of Bowman's stature becomes a symbol and a target. But before his downfall, Bowman ruled with an iron fist. Under his leadership, the Hells Angels expanded rapidly across the Midwest, often through intimidation and open warfare with rival gangs. The FBI placed him on its 10 most wanted list in 1998, describing him as armed, dangerous, and capable of extreme violence. When he was finally captured in 1999, after more than a year on the run, law enforcement said his arrest crippled a major criminal network within the club. Even behind bars, his name commands a kind of fearful respect. The legend of Taco never really left the road. #3. Rejean Zigzag Lessard. Rejean Zigzag Lessard is infamous for his central role in the Lennoxville Massacre, 1985, when 5 members of the Hells Angels in Quebec were executed in a purge orchestrated by other angels. He was convicted of multiple first-degree murders and sentenced to life. While incarcerated, Lessard renounced the club, turned to Buddhism, and claimed to have left the violence behind. But make no mistake, his name is engraved in the darkest chapters of biker warfare. #4. Jonathan John Nelson. Jonathan John Nelson is one of the newer names on this list, part of the Sonoma County, California Hells Angels. In 2024, he was sentenced to life in prison for racketeering, murder, assault, robbery, and witness intimidation. He was part of a criminal enterprise with violent crimes in aid of the club. He shows how the legacy continues, new waves of angels meeting the same violent fate behind bars. Story: this trio's case is recent and chilling. In 2022, prosecutors tied them to multiple murders, assault, extortion, and a broad conspiracy in Sonoma County. Their 2024 life sentences show that even today, Hells Angels violence ends the same way, behind bars. #5. Brian Wayne. Brian Wayne. Went is another one from that same 2024 California case. Also sentenced to life, Went's conviction stemmed from the same racketeering conspiracy that included murder and witness intimidation. Put simply, he's sitting in prison because he was deeply involved in the violent core of that operation. #6. Russell Rusty Ott. Completing the trio is Russell Rusty Ott, also handed a life sentence in June 2024. He too was part of the violent criminal enterprise, guilty of murder in aid of racketeering. 3 names, 1 case, and each one now lost to cages and walls. Ott wasn't just a bystander. Prosecutors described him as one of the men who helped cover up the brutal murder of fellow Hells Angel Joel Silver, whose body was allegedly burned to erase all evidence. Investigators said Ott's loyalty to the club outweighed any sense of morality, a reminder that in the Angels' world, brotherhood often means blood. His conviction marked the end of a years-long FBI pursuit that unraveled one of the deadliest internal conspiracies in Hells Angels history. #7. David Dave the Hammer Atwell. David Dave the Hammer Atwell was a member of the Toronto Hells Angels and later turned police informer. He had long been involved in drug trafficking and was known for his brutality. While he eventually cooperated, his past reputation and deeds mark him among the dangerous figures, even beyond prison walls. #8. Walter Nurget Stadnik. Walter Nurget Stadnik was once the national president of the Canadian Hells Angels. Under his direction, the club expanded aggressively, absorbed rival clubs, and consolidated power. Stadnik was convicted on narcotics and conspiracy charges, and while detained, his shadow still hovers over Canadian policing agencies and biker warfare. #9. Frankie Breeze. Tomillo Frankie Breeze. Tomillo hailed from the New York Angels. He was deeply involved in drug trafficking, particularly cocaine, and had a reputation for violence. Though not as internationally well known as some others, in the underworld his name carries weight, a dangerous man behind bars. #10. Michel Sky Langlois. Michel Sky Langlois from Quebec fought in the Quebec biker wars. He was convicted of multiple murders and other charges, and his name is tied to some of the bloodiest chapters in Canadian biker history. When you hear Sky, you hear conflict, retribution, and deadly ambition. #11. Jacques Pelletier. Jacques Pelletier was a feared enforcer within the Hells Angels Quebec chapter, one of the most violent periods in the club's history. Known for his brutal discipline and unwavering loyalty, Pelletier played a key role during the infamous Quebec Biker War, a deadly conflict in the 1990s that claimed over 160 lives. He was eventually arrested during Operation Sharky, one of Canada's largest anti-gang crackdowns, which saw nearly 150 Hells Angels and associates taken down in 2009. Pelletier's arrest ended years of terror linked to bombings, contract killings, and turf wars across Montreal. Authorities described him as a man who operated without fear or hesitation, often carrying out violent orders personally to send a message. Even behind bars, his influence persisted, as he was known to command respect among both inmates and fellow angels, continuing to uphold the Brotherhood's code of silence. #12. Otis Buck Garrett. Otis's Buck Garrett ordered, according to credit, the killings of a mother and her children, allegedly in retaliation for testimony against the Angels. He was already serving a life term on narcotics when he got convicted for multiple murders. A man who ordered bloodshed from inside the club's ranks, that's the kind of danger we include here. #13. Robert P. Moran. Robert P. Moran, a longtime figure in Hells Angels legal battles, was convicted for his role in coordinated drug and violence operations. He's no stranger to prison, and among the network's dangerous operators behind the scenes. #14. Michael Christopher Mesa Mike Kramer Kevin Augustiniak. In Arizona, when the Dirty Dozen patched over to join the Angels, the Mesa chapter included Michael Christopher Mesa Mike Kramer and Kevin Augustiniak. Kramer had multiple criminal convictions, including for robbery and assault. Augustiniak too had a violent criminal record. While their sentences are not always life, their brutality and association earn them a slot on this list of most dangerous. #15. Christian A. Rufino. Finally, Christian A. Rufino, a member of the New Rochelle, New York Angels. He was sentenced to 15 years in 2012 on federal firearm and drug charges. While lesser known, his conviction and role in firearms drugs pushes him into this expanded cut of Angels behind bars. Who is the most dangerous one, according to you? Comment your thoughts in the comment section. Like this video and share it with the ones interested in the biker gangs. And subscribe for more.